Hey everybody, it's Imagifilms, and the next thing we're going to go over is how you get an animation like this into your Emporium metaverse. So, I got this model from Sketchfab, I showed you in the last video, and I really like the way this one looked. I'm into the whole space theme, it's kind of destroy all humans. First thing you're going to download this model. I already have it downloaded here, low poly UFO scene. So, we're going to use this UFO scene. First thing is open up Blender. Always delete the default cube. And we also don't need this camera or the light. So then we come to File, Import, GLTF 2.0, also known as GLB. And find your folder that you put that model in and just double click it. So you're going to see, you're way zoomed in on whatever's going on here. So what you can do, if it happens like this, you see everything selected because it has this little this edge hue around it, this orange look. You can hit S and scale it down like that with your mouse. Now, say if it wasn't selected, if it was like this, you can just hit A and that selects everything. So A, then S, scale it all way back. We have our model here, and if we want all the colors to show, we can click this button here. It just shows a render of this with no lighting. This would be if there was a light, but since we deleted the light, we want it to show no lighting. So now, I like this UFO, and I want to animate it, but let's say I'm not a big fan of this flag. So you can just, see sometimes all the model will be all just one unit, like maybe this tree. Say if the tree was joined like this as one and you only want to delete the trunk, then you would have to go into edit mode, which you hit tab. And that's where you can actually select vertices or come into here and select edges, or into here you can select the faces and say I want to delete that face. I can hit delete key, face, and that gets rid of that. We don't want to do that, so I'll Control Z, go back to object mode. So right here, I don't really like this flag, so I'm just going to delete the stem. And same thing here with these feet. Not a big fan of that look. I just want the UFO itself as if the feet didn't exist. So let's come into here and see what all is this feet connected to. And it looks like these feet are connected to this entire model. So what we can do is we're in face mode. We can go into our vertices and we can see through everything. This is an X-ray. And this basically selects everything. If you're looking at it without X-ray on, when I select this, it only selects what's on this side. But if I hit X-ray, it's going to pick everything up on the other side. So I don't want any of this. And same thing goes for these. I'm not a big fan of these, so X-ray is still on. And we can delete all these as well. All right. So we still have these little nubs here. Don't really like those, so same thing. I'm just going to select these vertices, and there's still some polygons up here that we don't need. And so what I just did, I can press and hold the Alt key, and if it's a loop, you can select the whole loop. It looks like it selected this half. So then I do Shift Alt and select the other side. That selects everything. And that deletes that. And it looks like this still has some vertices, but they're not actually any polygons. So I'm fine with leaving that. So we're going to do the same thing on these. We can actually just select them all at once. See, those are still selected. Like that and like that. So all of them are selected. Delete vertices. All right, so now we have our UFO model. So now you'll see if you hit G to grab it, nothing's connected. So we want to hit, just click on any one of these, and then you can hit Shift, which will select another one, and then you can left click, select another one, select whatever is connected to this model, and then to see whether or not you've selected everything, you just hit G, and it looks like I got everything. To put it back in its place, just hit Control Z. And so now I have everything here, and I can join them with Control J. Okay? And actually, while I'm looking at it, it looks like I missed a couple vertices right there, so I'll delete those. Okay? So this is looking good, and now I want to animate this. So you'll know in Blender, there's so many different panels. If you come up here, you can see we're currently in our 3D viewport. We also have image editor, the UV editor, a bunch of different things. Each does a lot of different functions, but right now we're just going to look at this viewport. And down here, we have another one. This came in by default, but let's say it didn't. Oops. Okay, so let's say it didn't. So we just have this viewport here. Now, if you'd see when you go into the corners of Blender, it's like this little cursor pops up that's not your regular mouse. When that appears, you can just pull up or pull left, and you see it's kind of bringing up a little box. And when you release that, it pops up another one of these tabs. So the tab that I want to use for this lesson we're going to do is the dope sheet. And then under dope sheet, I'm going to switch to the action editor. So for this one UFO, you can set keyframes, basically just meaning a point of reference of where this object is at any given point in time. So if I hit I, right now I have this selected, my cursor's still over the viewport. I hit I. That brings up an object transform, which basically just took a snapshot of all of the data of its location, its scale, and its rotation of just this model. So then what we can do is we can close that back, go back to the viewport, and we can manipulate this where we want it to go. So let's say in 40 keyframes, we want this to be up here. We want it to have rotated on the Z axis. So we hit RZ, and we want it to have rotated like a UFO. So let's say we're cool with that, and we'd hit I again. And now it just took another snapshot of this position, the rotation, and the scale, obviously, which we didn't change. So now if we play that, we got some animation. So what I'm going to do, I'll just grab these, copy, and paste them at 80. So now we have a nice little UFO going up and down. So let's say we're happy with that. We're going to hit A, File, Export, our GLB. We're going to go to Animating Model, and we can just call this UFO Anim. We have our animation data, all that's checked, and as is fine for the purpose of this model, including just the selected objects, which it doesn't matter because we selected everything anyway, but it's something good to just keep in mind. And everything else should be good. So we can export that. And now we're going to come back to our MML editor. And so let's delete all of that. And this is from scratch. So if we're going to do a 3D model and add, by uploading, that animation that we just created, the UFO anim. So upload that. And we can copy this, go back to our scene. Here's the model. Change the ID to UFO anim. or whatever you want. The source, or SRC, we just copied from assets. Paste there. So there's our model. And you notice, where's my animation? Right here, that same source that you just had, Control V, there again. And now you have the animation. So you may say, okay, we're looking good. I want this in my scene. So you Control A, Control C. And obviously I already have it here, but we're going to delete that. And where'd it go, right? Why is it not there? So as you can see, we're slightly below this grid. So pop that up just a bit. And you want to make sure there's no triangles below that grid. And now we can Control A, Control C on this code again. Come back here. And then there it is. There's our little scene. Obviously, you know, maybe we want this to fill up the whole parcel here. So we can come back into our editor and we'll say maybe 5 is the factor that we want to multiply it by. Make sure that it's not falling below that grid. And that's something you just got to kind of play with. Maybe there's a better way, but I haven't figured it out. To make sure that it is not any point below that grid. Otherwise, it just won't spawn in at all. But yeah, that is how you add some animation and just a couple little things that you can do in Blender. Now, if you're looking to really get into Blender and learn how to maybe make models or edit UVs, create textures, what have you, I would recommend checking out this donut tutorial. It's a 14-part series. It's really good about breaking down a bunch of different things. And yeah, I barely scratched the surface here. Even on my own, I have no idea what half of this stuff, if not 90% of Blender does, because it's just endless. But yeah, it's a great starting point if you're really looking at getting deeper into making these models or at least manipulating them in fun ways.